so this lesson is on my secondary student again, and this is a math lesson that he did.
Okay. I noticed in the beginning of the lesson he didn't seem super, I called it engaged. After talking with you, we've kind of figured out what was going on and what led up to it. And there was some communication stuff going on that he misunderstood or wasn't communicated clearly enough to him. So he was kind of sour about having to go.
Right. He thought it was going to be a different time.
Yeah.
It was going to be after lunch.
But he continued. He powered through. And you could see kind of when things took a shift. It was like, okay, I've got to do this. I'm doing it begrudgingly, but I'm going to do it. Even the huffs. Yeah. And then he kind of came around in the end and was engaged and wanting to work and understanding the lesson. So he was getting stuff out of it. That's one of those behavior management aspects that sometimes you've just got to power on through, even if they're grumpy about it, and even if it doesn't seem like they're focused and engaged. He was still getting part of it. So that compliance even.
Right.
We talked about you were afraid that maybe you'd pick the wrong numbers too big, that was going to overwhelm him, or he wasn't going to be successful enough with it, maybe that you needed to go down some. And that's just that higher expectations of that's what you had for him to work on. And even wondering, oh no, should I not?
Yeah.
Offering it to him and seeing how he did pushed him to a higher level. When he saw it's the simplicity of it, it's just adding, and you've got adding down. Right. So we're going to get there.
Right. Yeah, when he saw that it was multiplication, he kind of said, oh, I'm not good at multiplication. You know, he gave me that excuse right off the bat. And then, but I started out with lower numbers, you know, like 3 plus 3 plus 3 or 4 5s or whatever. And he was struggling with that.
Right.
And that's when I was thinking, the independence part is going to be too hard for him.
And you know, I'm not even sure. You keep saying he was struggling with the counting. I don't even know that the counting may have been his problem. I think probably he was still focused on that's multiplication, and you're asking me to add, and I've got to see if adding and multiplying are going to be the same thing. So,
see, when he had the 5 plus the 5 plus the 5 plus the 5, he was counting by ones on by 5, and I even asked him, do you know how to count by 5s? Like 5, 10? You know, I can't do that, you know. I said, okay, go ahead and, you know, do whatever you need to do. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, that's
interesting.
Yeah.
Because once he saw what it was, yes, he can. Because he's doing it.
I know.
You're Skip County. Yeah, you can do it.
I think he was still huffy then, so.
Probably. Yeah. The engagement, again, coming back to you're adding all those aspects into your lessons that are keeping him engaged. You're moving from one thing to the next and showing him how it's all connected and it's all going back to what we're doing. And just having those expectations up there and him knowing, you know, this is what's expected of me. She's going to give me the work. I'm doing it. She's going to work it with me. Just all part of.
Yeah. It was really neat to watch everything transform because we saw struggling going on at the very beginning, and then he started doing things with mental strategies and being quick, and efficient about saying the answer. You know, because we went on one of the IXL questions, and it was a word problem, but it was like something like 23, and then it had 20, whatever it was, 23 rocks, and it had, you know, 2 boxes, you know, how many would that be? And he did that in his head and said the answer out loud before I even had to give him very much think time at all. Right. You know, so yeah, that was very exciting to see that. And I was overly praising him on that.
I don't think there's overly praising. You know, praise them. They don't get
Yes,
enough
that's
praise
true.
because
That's true.
so many times stuff is such a struggle that they don't get celebrate those little accomplishments. We talked about us seeing our kids for multiple years in a row being different from when you taught grade level, because you had them this year, gave them everything you could give them, and you pass them on to somebody else. But in special ed, no, you've got a few years to keep working on and see those little successes that you know are going to turn into big successes later. But it takes them so long to get there that you can't really celebrate those huge successes. You've got to celebrate those little ones in between.
With my kids, you know, because I had them last year that were in 4th grade. So my 5th graders and my 6th graders that I have now, you know, I'll say, remember last year?
Yeah.
You struggled with this.
Yeah.
And look at you.
Right.
You know, it's just very at ease. You can do this without even, you know, it's like taking a nap sometimes, you know. And
it's a lot of times somebody to believe in.
Yeah. And they need to be reminded, because, you know, they sometimes forget.
They forget things were hard before that are easy now.
Yes.
Yeah. We have that on a board over everything's hard before it's easy. Sure it is.
Yes.
And that hard stuff's hard.
Yes, it is.
And that's the stuff we don't like to do.
That's right.
And you can see him struggling through. This is hard because I'm angry, because I'm confused, because there were some communication issues, but I'm going to get through that hard stuff. And this is hard. I don't know multiplication. Okay, but now it's easy because it's just addition. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and when I gave him the independent practice, I was, you know, it was just so good to see, because I even asked him, because I had a little, it's actually a sheet cover, and I just was using an expo marker on it, and I asked him, do you want to use it and write with it? No, you can do it. You know, you know.
He still needed to see you do it.
Yes.
He wasn't sure about the process yet.
So.
But when you gave it to him, he knew what to do with it. Yeah. I need to see you do it till I figure that out. But then when he got to it, he knew what to do.
Yeah, and I mean, he did 3 problems because his time was ending, you know, to go to the next class. But, you know, I feel like that he just did a really good job, and he showed that he understood what about repeated addition and how multiplication really does work now.
And him saying nobody had ever shown it. I could have been doing this all along.
Well, he gave me kind of like a speech and said, how come no one's ever showed this to me before, you know?
If it's that simple, why have I been struggling?
Yeah. But, you know, somebody probably could have shown him back in elementary. But he was development, he was not ready for that yet.
No. And it takes knowing your kids to know, because you said you were concerned that you'd given him too big of numbers, because what y'all had been practicing with were those single digits, but the numbers didn't matter. It was the concept of what to do, and he got that. Even if his math is wrong, we know where to work on that. He got the process, and the process is what you wanted him to get. Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times that's what our work is they're not getting the right answer. Okay. But I can see where they're lost. I can see where his mistake was. I know what to go back and correct. Yeah.
That's why it's important too that if we know that it's wrong, we still want the child to explain what steps they took.
Yes.
Because often they will find their mistake, you know, and they can fix it, you know, as they're doing, I did that, you know, I should have done this. So,
well, and I've even had kids that would correct it. Oh, it ain't that number, it's this number. Okay, we'll fix it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just part of the whole learning process.
Absolutely.
You know? We learn better from our mistakes than we do.
I don't know if we talked this time, you and I've discussed about that critical think time. And for him, he needed to see that you were going to let him process through and have that think time.
Yes, the wait time is very important, especially with special education students, you know, they have, and it's more than what you think they need, you know.
Well, it absolutely is. And a lot of them, it's because you're giving it to them verbally, because lots of times they can't read the directions. So they're getting it verbally. You've shown them how to do it, but they're having to have all of that and put it all together to get you what you want. So they need that extra time because they're having to do more steps than everybody else would. Yeah. So great job. Thought it was a great lesson. Thought he did well with it in the end.
Yes.
Wasn't sure he was going to get there. So
he's
that
a
was
sweetheart.
great.
He really is. I enjoyed working with him.